Imagine a single country stretching from the North Sea to the Arctic Circle. It's defined by cold seas, dense forests, and some of the most stable societies on Earth. This country would occupy the Scandinavian peninsula and its immediate surroundings, forming a unified state we will call Scandinavia. It would combine the territories of Sweden, Norway, and Denmark into one political, economic, and geographic entity. First, let's talk about the flag. The Nordic cross is the foundation, because it is the most recognizable and historically shared symbol across Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. The blue background represents the surrounding seas and Scandinavia's maritime character, as well as stability and global connectivity. The green cross symbolizes the vast forests, mountains, and natural landscapes that define the peninsula. The thin white outline represents snow, ice, and the Arctic, while also standing for transparency, equality, and strong institutions. The design communicates unity, nature, and continuity in a form that is instantly recognizable as Scandinavian. Located in northern Europe, Scandinavia would border the Atlantic Ocean, the Baltic Sea, Germany to the south, and Finland to the east. Its strategic position would place it between continental Europe, the Arctic region, and the North Atlantic trade routes. Geographically, Scandinavia would cover approximately 1.15 million square kilometers. That size would make it the 29th largest country in the world, larger than Colombia and more than twice the size of France. The country would feature dramatic natural contrasts, from Norway's fjords and Arctic tundra to Sweden's forests and Denmark's lowlands. It would have one of the longest coastlines on Earth, exceeding 40,000 kilometers when including islands and fjords. This coastline would rank among the top 5 globally, comparable to Canada and Indonesia in maritime reach. Scandinavia's climate would range from temperate maritime in the south to subarctic in the north. Despite its latitude, ocean currents like the Gulf Stream would moderate temperatures in much of the country. Large areas would be sparsely populated, with population density averaging about 19 people per square kilometer. This would make it less dense than Spain and far less dense than Germany or the United Kingdom. The total population of Scandinavia would be approximately 21 million people. That would place it around 63rd in the world by population, similar to Romania or Chile. The largest metropolitan area would be Stockholm, followed closely by Copenhagen and Oslo. Other major urban centers would include Gothenburg, Malmö, Aarhus, and Bergen. More than 88% of the population would live in urban areas, ranking Scandinavia among the most urbanized countries globally. Culturally, Scandinavia would be highly cohesive, but internally diverse. The dominant languages would be mutually intelligible North Germanic languages, English spoken fluently by over 90% of adults. The country would consistently rank first in the world for English proficiency among non-native speakers. Cultural values would emphasize social trust, individual freedom, equality, and strong institutions. Indigenous Sami culture would remain an important part of the national identity, especially in the northern regions. Economically, Scandinavia would be one of the world's most advanced and resilient economies. Its combined nominal GDP would be approximately $1.7 trillion. This would place Scandinavia around 12th in the world, ahead of Spain and just behind South Korea. In GDP per capita terms, the country would average around $80,000 nominally. That figure would rank Scandinavia within the global top 5, alongside countries like Switzerland and Luxembourg. Adjusted for purchasing power, GDP per capita would remain above $70,000 international dollars. This would make Scandinavia one of the richest societies ever recorded in modern economic history. The economy would be highly diversified, combining advanced manufacturing, energy, services, and technology. Key export sectors would include oil and gas, machinery, pharmaceuticals, renewable energy technology, and digital services. Scandinavia would also rank among the top 10 exporters in global trade, despite its relatively small population. Norway's energy sector would give Scandinavia enormous leverage in global markets. The country would be one of the top 5 exporters of natural gas in the world. At the same time, more than 70% of its electricity would come from renewable sources, primarily hydropower and wind. This would place Scandinavia first globally in clean electricity generation per capita. Its carbon emissions per capita would be significantly lower than the OECD average. Scandinavia would host the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, valued at over 1.4 trillion US dollars. Measured per capita, this fund would be unmatched by any other country. It would provide long-term fiscal stability and insulate the economy from commodity price shocks. Public debt would remain low, well below 40% of GDP. This would rank Scandinavia among the top 10 countries globally in fiscal sustainability. In terms of human development, Scandinavia would be exceptional. The combined Human Development Index would effectively rank first in the world. Life expectancy would average around 82 years, comparable to Japan and Switzerland. Income inequality, measured by the Gini coefficient, would be among the lowest globally. Poverty rates would remain minimal by international standards. Education would be one of Scandinavia's defining strengths. The country would consistently rank in the global top 10 for education outcomes and skills. Public spending on education would exceed 6% of GDP. Universities in Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Oslo would rank among the world's top 100. The workforce would be one of the most highly skilled and technologically literate on Earth. Politically, Scandinavia would be one of the most stable democracies in the world. It would rank first or second globally in democracy, transparency, and rule of law indices. Corruption perception would be the lowest worldwide, according to international rankings. Voter participation would consistently exceed 80% in national elections. Public trust in institutions would be among the highest ever measured. On the global stage, Scandinavia would wield influence disproportionate to its size. Its economy alone would be comparable to that of Russia, but with a population nearly 7 times smaller. The country would rank within the top 10 contributors to international development aid as a share of GDP. It would be a major diplomatic actor in climate negotiations, human rights forums, and conflict mediation. Scandinavia would be a founding leader in global green transition initiatives. Militarily, Scandinavia would maintain a technologically advanced but relatively small defense force. Defense spending would be around 2% of GDP, aligning with NATO standards. Its military capabilities would focus on naval power, air defense, and cybersecurity. Given its geography, Scandinavia would control key access points to the Baltic Sea and Arctic routes. This would give it strategic relevance in both European and Arctic security frameworks. In terms of innovation, Scandinavia would rank among the top 5 countries globally. It would produce more patents per capita than the United States or Germany. Major global companies would include leaders in telecommunications, shipping, pharmaceuticals, gaming, and clean technology. The country would also dominate global rankings in startup creation per capita. Stockholm alone would rank second only to Silicon Valley in tech unicorns per capita. Socially, Scandinavia would be known for its extensive welfare system. Public health care would be universal and free at the point of use. Parental leave policies would rank first in the world in both length and compensation. Gender equality indices would consistently place Scandinavia at number 1 globally. Female labor force participation would exceed 75%, among the highest worldwide. However, Scandinavia would not be without challenges. An aging population would place long-term pressure on pensions and healthcare systems. Immigration integration would remain a central social and political issue. High living costs would rank among the top 10 globally, especially in major cities. Housing affordability would be a persistent structural concern. Despite these pressures, economic resilience would remain strong. Unemployment would typically stay below 6%, even during global downturns. Labor productivity would rank among the top 5 in the OECD. The country would consistently outperform the European Union average in economic growth stability. Public finances would allow rapid response to crises without destabilization. In cultural influence, Scandinavia would punch above its weight. It would rank among the top exporters of music, film, and television per capita. Global cultural icons in pop music, design, literature, and gaming would originate from this region. Scandinavian design would remain a global benchmark for minimalism and functionality. The country would also rank first globally in quality of life surveys. Taken as a whole, Scandinavia would represent a rare combination of scale, wealth, stability, and sustainability. It would be larger than France, richer per person than the United States, and more stable than almost any other society. A few countries in history would combine such high living standards with such low inequality. On nearly every measurable index of development, Scandinavia would rank within the global top tier. As a single country, it would stand as one of the most successful national models in the modern world.